Connected with a sex child abuse ring. The story has come to be known as Pizzagate, and it's convinced many on the left that the speech they disagree with on the internet, which they're calling now fake news, ought to be actively suppressed by the authorities. Bill McMorris is a writer for the Washington Free Beacon, and he spent some time looking into fake news, into that whole phenomenon, and he joins us now with an update. Bill, it's great to see you.
Thanks for having me, Tucker.
So what exactly is fake news, and who practices it?
Fake news is whatever people living in the liberal bubble determined to be believed by the right.
Right.
And it is obviously the reason that Donald Trump won the election, and this just happens to be a nice convenient thing that happened to a nice DC establishment. And of course it's based on a complete hoax, but they have taken this from the stream of consciousness, inventive minds of Central Europeans and transmogrified it into exactly why Donald Trump won the election, which is a very convenient definition.
Yeah, I mean, let me be totally clear. I think walking into any establishment with a rifle is totally over the top and outrageous and awful and a crime, and the guy's now in jail and good. But I have to say, it's a little weird to hear journalists arguing for the suppression of views, even if they believe them to be wrong, or even if they can prove they're wrong. To argue that people shouldn't be allowed to express what they think, that's not a position journalists ought to be taking, is it?
No, it's not. But the First Amendment has often threatened journalistic establishments interested in preserving a monopoly on access to information.
Yeah.
So we've seen it time and again from the positions of opposition newspapers during the Adams administration through to today with the proliferation of blogs. You had Chuck Schumer sitting there saying, hey, we should regulate the First Amendment with the Shield Law and basically clarify what a journalist is. And a lot of journalists were very comfortable with this idea, saying that the First Amendment isn't good enough. We have to clarify exactly what this person is.
And Chuck Schumer's the man to do that, of course, as a noted First Amendment advocate. I mean, it's totally insane. Now, you made a point in a piece that made me laugh out loud because it was so brilliant, that the New York Times, which is chief among those outlets decrying fake news, maybe has engaged in a little bit of it, and you've got pages of examples. I urge our viewers to read this, but you say during the campaign, Times readers had the inside scoop that the nation was, quote, witnessing Hispanics surging to the polls that would break through Hillary's blue wall and that would stop Trump from being president. And it goes on and on and on like that. You found a lot of fake news in that paper.
Absolutely. And we found examples of Times reporters writing in news stories, hey, only these people buried in the Trump bubble could believe that Trump could win Pennsylvania. We at the New York Times, because we're such real journalists, know this to be different. But Ken Stern, the former CEO of National Public Radio, actually wrote in Vanity Fair before the election that he could not spot a difference between the tone with which Breitbart addressed the Trump campaign and the tone with which the Washington Post addressed the Clinton campaign, in that everything was so steeped in negativity. And the fake news phenomenon seems like a journalistic establishment is not going to try to correct the issues that led them to miss this election and this movement so bigly, to quote a famous man. Instead, they're going to double down and take their marching orders, remain in the bubble. Fake news is a term that was used about 500 times before the election actually took place, from October 1 to Election Day. From Election Day afterward, it's been used more than 3,000 times. So it seems like these journalists are all coming to the same conclusion at the same time, which is probably why they're missing what's actually happening in the United States of America.
Weird for a group of independent-minded people who would never join a herd mindlessly or anything. They're such lemons. And I could go on forever, and I don't want to, the New York Times is not the only offender, but you have the exhaustive list of this. I mean, they were literally wrong about everything. Republicans are going to lose all the state houses. The stock market's going to crash. Trump, of course, will be sent to Elba, and the Republican Party will disintegrate. I mean, were they right about anything?
They were right that the stocks were going to take a bigger hit than they did after 9/11. Oh, I'm sorry. I was reading a fake news site. Did that not happen?
No. They're the highest they've been in years. I mean, whether that is meaningful is another question.
The biggest gain since 2011. I got that from another fake news site.
Hilarious. Bill McMorris, it's great to see you, as always. Thanks a lot.
Thanks for having me, Tucker.
They probably think I'm rolling, I ain't on nothing. They probably think I'm rolling, I ain't on nothing. They probably think I'm rolling, I ain't on nothing. But what I got you need to know about, cause homie, I'm turned. 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 Everybody slow motion, leaning off the potion. I tell them I'm straight, trying to keep my mind focused.